Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to the SwiftCase Productivity Podcast. My name is Adam Sykes. I'm the founder of SwiftCase, the professional productivity platform. And today I've got with me
Graham McCarthy, development manager at SwiftCase.
Yeah, hi, I'm Phil Whitby, developer at SwiftCase.
And as a special guest, we've also got John Bura with us over from Canada. Hi, John.
How's it going?
Hi. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So I've been an entrepreneur since I was 17, and I currently run a business called Mammoth Interactive, and we make games, apps, and training content. We're most known for our training content. I've been a Udemy top seller for almost 8 years. I was one of the first people on the platform. But before that, I made a bunch of iOS apps, an Xbox 360 game, and I've bootstrapped my business to success here. And, you know, it was difficult to bootstrap a business in the last recession, but I somehow managed to make it work. And, you know, since then we've sold over 700,000 courses and everything's awesome.
Yeah. So I think we had very, very similar paths. When we spoke before we did this, we both started our business ourselves and we didn't get funding. We started around the same time. So not long after 2008, around the same period. And this whole idea about bootstrapping, I suppose, if you want to tell us a bit more about your sort of journey and like what different options I suppose people have when they're thinking about maybe they're looking to start a business, they're not sure how to sort of approach it, and what is it, you know, what is bootstrapping all about really?
Sure. So one of the things that, you know, is kind of a common misconception when you start a business is, you know, you need to have millions and millions of dollars to make it a success. Well, if you ever went to an investor and you said you had this idea and you just need $10 million, they're probably going to laugh you right out the door.
Yeah.
Right? So bootstrapping is where you take the money in and you use that money to build your business. Now, this is a more old school way of building a business, but it's still a very good way. And this is what we've done even up to this point at Mammoth Interactive, is that we just take what we make and then we reinvest it in the company. And lots of companies do this. So if you're thinking about starting a business, you have to test your ideas. And the idea that's going to win is the idea that people absolutely love. Okay. So I was making a bunch of iOS games and Xbox 360 games, and I was a freelancer at the time. And, you know, I would show people my games and literally everybody said, this was around 2010, 2011, literally everybody said, how do you make that? You know, how do you make this game? How do you make this app? How do you do all this stuff? And I said, okay, no one's interested in the actual games themselves. They're interested in how to do it. So I made this massive 35-hour course on how to build a game from scratch in this engine called Construct 2, which is an amazing game engine. The new version is called Construct 3, but at the time it was Construct 2. And this literally started with nothing, showed you everything, and it became a huge success, actually. And from there, you know, that's how we started our business. And essentially, that's what I did. So I got the money from that, and I just reinvested all the money in, you know, equipment and my time personally. And eventually I did scale up to a company. We have 5 employees today. But what I did was, I listened to the market. I said, this is what people need. And, you know, and this is what people want. And then I continued to do that.
Yeah, I suppose that's the key thing, isn't it? It's finding, the whole thing about business is finding a problem that people have. So in your case, the problem is that they want to know they want to make a game, but they don't know how to do it. And then solving their problem by providing them a solution. You know, that is the key thing, isn't it? If you want to start your business, it's find the people who've got the problem first, and people will come into you with their problem of how do you make this game? And, you know, I want to know how to build a game, and you having the solution there, that's the value that people want to invest in. I suppose the issue, really, the discipline of bootstrapping is that when you first see that money coming in, it's very easy to say, wow, I've got all this money, let's go and spend it. But actually, the key to bootstrapping, the key to growing your business that way is knowing that you've got to take that money, and it's not your money, it's your business's money, and you've got to reinvest that in order to grow.
Absolutely. You're 100% right. So like if you have a job and you get paid a certain amount of money, sometimes if you start your own business, you might get a check that's 4 times the amount. Yeah. The number one instinct you're going to do is, I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to buy myself a new car. You know, the problem with business though is that like you might not get that same check the next month or the following month. So you really have to kind of budget. And, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 17. I've had very few jobs that pay me every other week. So, or anything like that. So I've always know that you have to save your money, but you're totally right on that.
Yeah. I mean, did you even spend your first big check?
I spent it on rent. In necessity.
That's an essential. That's a different case. Okay, so when you first started and you built your course, and you started seeing people wanting to, the initial people were coming to you. How did you take that from, I suppose, the initial people who came to you to kind of people you didn't know? So how did you make that move from selling to your friends and friends of friends and family and so on to sort of that next step?
Absolutely. So in my particular case, what happened is around 2011 really and 2012, the learn to code movement really picked up, and not a lot of people knew how to make these tutorials. When I was in high school, I actually was a guitar teacher. And I taught like 53 students a week, and I was paid 5 times minimum wage. It was amazing. It was an amazing job for someone who's like 18 to get. So, I used my coding experience, I used my game experience, and I used my teaching experience to all kind of come together. And at the time, like, there was very few people who could do that. Like, very few people who could code, very few people who could teach very well, and very few people who could actually get a product done, which was all the case, right? So there was a lot of marketing dollars spent to get my courses out there, and that's how I kind of moved things up. So I was also at the right place in the right time. But the other thing is I was constantly grinding to just do simple email marketing, which was give a course or a book away for free, and then market the people who enroll in that course. And for those of you who want a good tip on how to do that, you want to make sure that your course or your free ebook has some valuable content. Like, if it doesn't have any valuable content, people are going to say, off to the next thing. Like, you have to change people's lives in some shape or form. You have to like illuminate something for them. And if you don't do that, you won't ever get repeat business.
Yeah. I think I heard that the other day. It's like, you've got to have the wow. You've got to give them a wow, an aha moment at some point, so that they actually remember that and take the next step. So I think that's really good advice about how to sort of, I suppose it's building a funnel, isn't it? So getting leads in and offering them something to sort of build that trust, so that they then take the next step with you, that they liked your ebook, or they liked your small piece of content that you give away for free, and they see the value in that, and then they trust you and want to take the next step and actually come on your course and make use of your product and sign up to your services. So I suppose you say it's a right place and the right time, but the point is you've got to put the hard work in. You've got to be there all the time. You've got to keep plugging away, because when you're doing that, that's when people will see you. Would you say that's right? You've got to put it's right place and right time is a very small amount of the fact of the hard work that you put in.
Absolutely.
Being present.
If you constantly put in, okay, so the one thing you have to remember is that success is a wheel. It's not a destination, right? So I actually did get a really big check like in early 2012, and it was huge. In fact, it was almost my entire salary the year before, right? I was so ecstatic, right? And I maybe took 3 days off, but after that, I really got back on the wheel again. And you really do have to, and every entrepreneur makes this mistake. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're, Jeff Bezos or us, you have to always get back on that wheel. Otherwise, you yourself as an entrepreneur might actually, not feel as well because you're not producing something, right? Yeah. So it is true. And the thing about being in the right place at the right time, if you work hard and you look at like what people are asking for, you will eventually get to the right place at the right time. Yeah. Right? Like if you're cognizant enough to actually, figure out what people want, then you'll eventually get there. Yeah. But hard work will get you success, but the multiplier is how well you figure out what people want.
Yeah. Okay, that's don't mind if I interrupt. Yeah. That's really important, interesting, because when you said people were saying, how did you make it? I think 90% of entrepreneurs, people would ignore that question and say, no, look at my game, and ignore that as being a piece of feedback that allows you to change direction.
suppose it's the ability to see the bigger picture, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So seeing the opportunity
in what others would see as a problem.
Yeah. So you're like, why aren't you talking about my game?
Oh, I'm not doing something right. I need to market it differently. I need to sell it to these guys differently.
Yeah.
So
but you saw that opportunity of how a training course could piggyback off what wasn't. It's a whole pivot in your business model, which was I want to make games. I want to make iOS games, Xbox games, whatever. To actually no, this is where the market is. It's in the training. Yeah. So I think recognizing that is a very important skill, and thinking about more than thinking about the bigger picture is a big skill for entrepreneurs. Not getting lost in the detail of what your day-to-day business is.
Also, I suppose it's not doing what everyone else is doing, isn't it? Really, it's the idea of changing disrupting something, really, rather than I'm just going to make another one.
Does that come from that skill though of having multiple feathers to your bow? So you had like the experience of teaching coding and other aspects, and it allowed you to make that shift because you were comfortable making that shift.
Yeah.
Rather than being like, if you were just a pure coder, you would have just been like, no. Look at my, I need to stick to this. This is my model. But having those different skills and skill set just meant that you could change direction whenever you needed to.
Absolutely. And that's the other thing is that sometimes, when you're going through life, you rarely take a step, you rarely go back to something. So if you learn something, let's say graphic design, and it doesn't work out, then maybe 2-3 years down the road, there's an opportunity for you to use that graphic design knowledge. Like it's very hard to, go through life and be like completely worse off. There will always be some skills that you'll have that will take you to the next level. At the time, teaching wasn't as good money for me, but coding was. And somehow those two things kind of managed themselves into this new career. The other thing that is interesting that we haven't talked about yet is the pricing point. So at the time, people were very upset about paying $1 or $2 for your app, right? And then Apple would take, 30% of that. So like maybe you're getting $1.40. It's really hard as an entrepreneur to sell volume, okay? Yeah. And I tell all my entrepreneurs that come to me, if you can find something that's really high priced and low volume, that you're going to make way more money. Like if you make high end tables and sell them for $10,000, you're going to make way more money than selling apps, because like it's easier to get one person to pay $10,000 than it is to get 10,000 people to pay $1, right? Like so that the other thing about the courses at the time is that I could charge $20, $30, $40, $50. And sometimes even $100 for these courses. And, just getting one course for $100 in my pocket was like a lot of money for me at the time, right? So pricing, so there's a whole bunch of reasons why it worked out. And you have to, always figure out, like take maybe a few hours each month and say, okay, this is what I did this month. Here's what's working. Here's what's not. And what if I did these other things? And you kind of got to brainstorm, something new. And and that brainstorming is something where, if you say, oh, what if I did this? Even if it's a completely dumb idea to start, you might end up in a better place.
Yeah. You might start a podcast.
Yeah, there you go, right?
So I think that's a key point, isn't it, about testing things. And I think that, especially you're from a tech background, same as myself, is a lot of things with the way the tech industry is done so well is because we are from a technology background, a science background, and testing things and seeing the results and improving on the results is a big part of the actual underlying business. Yeah. And then when that's applied to business and entrepreneurship, that's where you can really see success, because other people don't necessarily think in that way about, let's try two things. This thing now, it's become popular, like the A/B testing, certainly on websites. That's a common thing in scientific practice. And as coders, as developers, as biologists, chemists, whatever science discipline you've come from, that's an inherent part of your thinking. And I think when people apply that to their business and they try different things and see the outcome, they can see really good effects. Especially, like you say, if you smash things together that are just like totally out there, like different skills that you think they don't really go together normally, you can come up with a whole industry. So I think that's really, really interesting point. So we've got that you've got your course, you've got sort of customers, you've expanded your customers through marketing, you've tried a few different things, you're seeing some success about pricing. So how did that then sort of transfer from, like a solopreneur or a one-man band, whatever you want to call it, into sort of a 5-person business, or how did you get to sort of the next step? What was the steps you took?
So I'm one of those people. Okay. So there's a lot to unpack there. So I always so every project that I do, I have a 10-10-10 rule. Okay. You need to do it 10% better. You need to do it 10% faster, and you need to make 10% more money. Okay. That's the last one's obviously the hardest one. But like the first two are completely in control, right? Like if I put out a course or a game or an app, I can say, look, these are all the things that went wrong in this. Okay. Next time I am not going to do that. Right. And, with each one of those steps, I got more efficient. So, in 2012, I could produce a course in X many hours, but by 2013 and 14, like I got that way down. Now, some people, what they do is like, if it takes them 5 hours to make a course, or let's say more like 40 hours to make a course, and then they get it down to like 20 or something, or 10 or whatever, they would kind of use the extra time. But what I would do is I would just work harder at other things, which eventually, kind of hit itself. I needed a break once in a while, but like, that's what I did is I would just find other ways to do things. And I would, until 2016, I did literally everything. That was the video editing, the courses, like the sales copy, the marketing, everything. And I was literally doing like 5 people's jobs. And now I have 5 people working for me doing all those other jobs, right? Because I'm focusing on other things. But, that's what you want to do and if you love like improvement, entrepreneurship is definitely for you. Because in 2012, I wasn't as good as a graphic designer as I am today, right? So I said to myself, look, I can go and make so I can either pay someone to make this graphic design, or I can do it myself and learn a new skill and then produce a new course. So by learning a new skill, by actually doing it and then producing a new course, I managed to turn all that into profit, right? So you always have to kind of figure out ways that, you can find more profit. But mostly, what I did over the years is I kind of worked on new things, and eventually the market I had to expand. In fact, there's a lot of people who didn't expand in 2016, and they're not really around today. They're not making as much money. So like there was market forces that forced me to expand. I wanted to do it in 2015, but my wife and I were moving, et cetera, and I just couldn't do it. So moved to a new city, and then et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. No, I think that's really a good idea. I like the idea of sort of monetizing your learning process. So I think a key thing for entrepreneurs is to always be learning new skills, because when you start, you have to learn so much, because you are doing everything. You're doing the accounts, you're doing all the back end operation, you're answering your phone, you do absolutely everything as a business owner until you get that first member of staff and you can offload a little bit of the workload. But to actually then monetize your learning process and go, how did I learn that, and put it into a training course? I think that's a genius idea.
Well, yeah. So I mean, I realized this. I'm like, okay, look, I can figure out how to do graphic design, and that's another thing. Like you mentioned, as a business owner, you need to do other things. And the best example of this is Elon Musk. Elon Musk knows everything in his business, right? And you can't. Like if I was an engineer at Tesla and I told Elon something that was simply not true, he would say, no, you need to do it this way. And as a business owner, you need to figure out what it is in your business that takes a certain amount of time. If a graphic designer says this is going to take 40 hours, I'm like, oh no, that's going to take 5 tops, right? And if you're not doing it in 5 hours, then, we have to talk about your process or something like that. And and from one of the few jobs that I've had, right, was at Starbucks, believe it or not. And it was actually a really eye-opening experience. But Starbucks managers can do all the tasks under them, right? And that gives them an edge over all the other coffee chains where some people did just bring in a manager. And this is the key thing about being like a senior person in a tech company, is that you need to be able to do all the things underneath you. And that way you can budget and you can give feedback. And, if you're managing like 5 or 10 coders at your job, or you're doing something in your business, you'll say, okay, look, this is not working. I know why this isn't working, so we can make it better.
Yeah, I think that's a key thing about learning about managing, is that as you grow as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, your role is about removing blocks to other people's productivity. So if, as a coder, what's going on. if people are having an issue, you can sort of remove the block they're having in their process, but you're not doing the work yourself. But you do need to understand how it works. I think that's a very, very key point. So
absolutely. And even if you don't completely if you don't completely understand everything, you need to understand at least the basics of it,
Yeah, I found that because my role, I've been with the company since it started, probably nearly 7 years ago now. And I came in as a junior web designer. And since then, I've obviously gone all the way to development manager now. But I've kind of done a little bit of everything. It's kind of much like yourself, really, where I think at this stage I've done marketing, I've done graphic design, I've done front-end development, I've done a bit of back-end development, management now. It's kind of a bit of everything. So I think it gives me a bit of perspective over the problems that the staff face, and some of the ways that we can help them move on, really, and just push the company forward.
Absolutely. And, like working at a big company, you have very specific tasks. And, a lot of people, some people like it and some people are designed to do that, but other people don't. And, working for a small business, you're doing this job one day and then maybe this job another day. It keeps things fresh, at least in my mind, right? If I just did one thing for the last 8 years, I probably wouldn't be as happy as I am today. Like there's always something new that you can do.
Yeah.
And, by learning marketing or back-end development, you get to grow as a person, which, people that are in the growth mindset, which we talk a lot about in entrepreneurship, at least Mammoth, I'm trying to do that here at Mammoth where, people, can go home at the end of the day and say they actually did something versus, I basically, did nothing all day. Cause there's lots of jobs out there like that.
Yeah. Just being present in the job, not actually growing as a employee or as like I call them a team member. Is they're part of a team, we're part of a team, and together we get stuff done. Rather than people are employees and I'm the boss. I think that's an important. But I think a key thing about being an entrepreneur is having that urge to seek out challenges and to fix things and to find problems to fix. If you've got that mindset, then starting your own business and being an entrepreneur is a great way to always have something new and interesting every day, because it might be one day I'm helping a developer who's got stuck, or it might be we're doing a podcast one day, we're speaking to some new friends in different countries, all this sort of thing. It's always different. There's the business side of things you can get involved in. And also, when you're making your recruitment decisions, you can take on people either in areas that you effectively you don't want to do. You can take people on to cover the gaps where you've got gaps in your skills, or you can learn things and do it yourself. You've got that flexibility in your job role as an entrepreneur. So starting your own business is a really great way to experience lots of things.